My name's Joanne. I work for a charity called Music Support, and we support anyone in the UK music industry with their mental health or with addiction challenges. And drum and bass community, we need your help. Never before have we seen a pandemic like this, which has meant our industry is ground to a halt, and people need us, and we would love for you to be a part of their journey of getting well. So if you'd like to visit our website at musicsupport.org and donate anything you can, it would be gratefully appreciated. And we hope to see you all on a dance floor very soon. Thanks for having us.
What's up, guys? Ben from Delta Heavy here. Hope you're all doing very well. So today, thought I'd do something a little different than doing a DJ set, because I feel like everyone has been inundated with DJ sets during this frustrating time we're going through right now. So I thought I would talk about and give you my top 10 favorites and most influential D&B tracks of all time. So without me planning it this way, all the tracks have ended up being from 2000 to 2010, which is a period that maps my getting into D&B as a teenager all the way through to us getting signed to RAM and Delta Heavy. So a very important part of my life, and a period where I fell in love with the music, started going to clubs and raves back in London and the UK, and went to university in Nottingham. Started playing in clubs because I'd had a set of decks since I was at the age 13. And it's when I fell in love with drum and bass, the pace and the energy and the storytelling of the music. And I think you can kind of see that from these tracks. So it was a nice walk down a nostalgic lane. So let's get into it. So number 10, Star Trails by Kemal and Rob Data. Dating from the year 2000, so starting at the beginning for me. I guess the obvious choice would have been to say something like, Messiah, which I think is a number one D&B tune for a lot of people and a lot of my kind of contemporaries. But this track is my personal favorite from two incredible producers who unfortunately are no longer around. We've heard rumors Kemal's back in the studio, but I'm not really sure what's going on there. This track is a little more subtle than something like Messiah. For me, it's like the perfect example of the kind of virus, wormhole era tech step sound that was really prevalent around the turn of the millennium. It's simple, it's 7 minutes long. It evolves, which obviously it's not something you really see in kind of current day music. It's a lot more 3 minutes long. Get to the point in terms of the arrangement. There was not that kind of pressure back then to fit into a kind of streaming template that we kind of have to pay attention to now. So, it's a lot more subtle, the changes in the track. The arrangement's a lot more minimal. A bass line will come in, a shaker will come out, that kind of thing. And it's just, really simple. The sound design sounds could be from a track in 2020, even though it's 20 years ago. So incredibly ahead of its time. Just love the kind of subtle atmosphere. It's dark without being overly menacing or noisy. It's my number 10. Number 9, bit of a sleeper hit. Obviously, there's been so many standout classics on the Ram Records back catalogue. Wanted to go for something a little bit more unknown. This is by Sparfunk and Joe Solo, track called Rapture. Sparfunk is one half of Moving Fusion, obviously responsible for such killers as Turbulence and Thunderball. This one, it's a bit more subtle again. I just love the atmosphere. It feels very epic in a kind of hopeful sense. And that is that feeling that sometimes we try to conjure up in our tracks as Delta Heavy. I love those like choral vocal blasts as it builds. It's got that classic kind of moving, evolving Ram Records bass sound. It has, quite a warm feel as well. And it's got that triplet switch in the middle, which at the time was being done a lot as a novelty, but it still was a complete novelty. So when someone like Andy C obviously would drop it at like a Ram night at the end, it would just blow your mind because it was so new and fresh. So yeah, love it. Number 8, my good friend Subfocus, featuring Alpine's Tidal Wave. Probably his biggest hit, and nice backstory. Catherine, the singer from the Alpines, actually went to school with my little sister, and Nick Subfocus was always one of our production idols getting into music. He still is, probably my favorite D&B producer and someone I look up to a lot technically. And now we're really good friends. So that's nice. For me, this track kind of represents a benchmark of what to aim for when we're writing a vocal track. Just the way the vocal works with the big melody lead. That sound, that kind of soaring saw wave based melody lead is something we use a lot. And, obviously this was one of the first tracks that did that. So just for that reason alone, I guess it's been highly influential for us. It's just a beautiful, beautiful vocal, very emotive, and just the way it works with that soaring melody, and just very effortless, very elegantly put together, not too many elements. It just proves that when you have the right components, you don't need too much more. You don't need loads of layers and other, distracting bits going on. So it's just, in effect, it's actually just a very well put together pop record that obviously works amazingly when you play it live.
You can't just give it away like it means nothing. Love isn't this game where you win something. I'm tired of being on the outside. I wanna know
7, of course, it is Pendulum with Bolt. A fairly obvious choice here, but I had to put it in. It was really the tune that put those guys on the map. It really represented a turning point in drum and bass and dancehall D&B. And I think so many producers, us included, kind of owe their sound and owe their careers to Pendulum and Volt and the tracks they followed up with, because the energy and the level of production had never really been done before. So it blew everyone away, especially all the other producers at the time. It has all the hallmarks of what we love in D&B and what we've made, hopefully trademarks of our own. That huge epic intro, the bass sound, the big rocky drums, the little obviously triplet switch. It catches everyone by surprise. Just a huge track. It was just huge for years. In everyone's sets, it was just the track. So, yeah, Bolt. Big moment. Number 6, top 10, not featuring this guy wouldn't be a complete D&B top 10. It is, of course, Dillinger. And I put Nasty Ways in my top 10. I could have put so many other tracks. So many things stand out over the years and all have their little bits of nostalgia attached to them. It Ain't Too Loud, All Aboard, Grimy, In the Grind. I mean, I could just go on for this entire video listing Dillinger bangers. But Nasty Ways, it was one of the first Dillinger tracks I'd ever heard. And his sound, maybe in the whole of dance music, there aren't that many people who have a sound that is so unique to them and often imitated, but never, no one's come close. The way he created a sound from analog overdrive and pushing, whatever desk he was using and valve preamps and stuff. And then even at the mastering stage, going to the cutting house and getting them to, really drive the levels through the cutting lathes and, all their mastering hardware. And this track, I always loved his vocal tracks, especially the ones with sung female vocals. A lot of them featured him kind of growling and barking and stuff, which is also sick and quite funny. But yeah, Nasty Ways, it's just classic Dillinger, not too much else to say. It's incredible. Number 5, gonna have to include another track from my buddy Nick Softfocus again. This one, yeah, it's an obvious choice, but when I first heard it for the first time, it was a real profound moment. And yeah, I don't know, when I'm reaching for inspiration through my kind of memory banks of experiences, hearing Time Warp and hearing like Andy C drop it at it's a bit of a theme of this top 10, Andy C dropping tracks for the first time at raves. But yeah, hearing Andy C drop it for the first time at Ram at the end, it was just one of those moments, like everyone was just, you know, it was like a, you know, what the F moment. Everyone is just like, what is that track? Because it sounded so unique, so different from everything at the time. It's got like 4 elements. It's like chunky kick and snare. And then, you know, it's effectively, the lead is like a riser. And I know that Nick was very influenced by house and techno at the time. And this track is directly influenced from, you know, another rave experience when he heard a track by Audion, Matthew Deere, called Mouth to Mouth, which has this, it's like a white noise square wave riser that just pitches up and up and up and up as the tune progresses. And Time Warp is, you know, it's like a microcosm of that experience. It's a unique track. And I haven't even spoke about the pattern. It was obviously another track where the triplet pattern and the way the triplets switch back to straight, it's something we love doing. You know, something like our track oscillator would not exist had it not been for Time Warp. So that alone had to be in the top 10. I drop it in sets now, it still sounds fresh, the production sounds great, the sound design's so clean. I mean, absolute classic. You know, like, hats off. Number 4, and I've just checked Discogs.com, which has informed me that this track was actually released in 1998. So actually a couple of years before I really got into D&B, because I was a bit young, and before the 2000 starting point I talked about. But no top 10 should miss this one out. And it's just, yeah, it's like a perfect drum and bass club record for me. I think it is the best example of that whole wormhole sound that Ed Rush and Optical and Optical's brother Jamie Matrix created, along with some, you know, other producers I've mentioned around, you know, 98, kind of 2001. It's just raw, funky. It's just, it has swagger. The sounds they were making with their Emu samplers, and like Dillinger, just running stuff in like hot through cheap equipment like Mackie desks. it gave everything a sound and a crunch that, you know, I don't think people have actually achieved, or like, you know, haven't really matched it in software. It doesn't have the same character, it doesn't have that same warmth. And yeah, the Medicine remix, it was so fun to mix on vinyl. It went with everything. That like cowbell is so distinctive, and it's just, makes me smile thinking about it. You know, it's moody, but it's not screechy or harsh. It's just got weight. Yeah, amazing tune. Number 3, and I was going to put this at like number 10 because I felt a little bit arrogant putting it so high, but I decided to put it so high because without this track, we wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you, the position we're in. So it changed everything, and for that reason, we're immensely proud of it, and it means a lot to us. So it's Delta Heavy, Space Time, Ram Records 2010. This was the track that got us signed to Ram. We had given it in as a demo via my sister, because she used to work at Matter, which was the Fabric sister club. And she'd passed it on to Andy and Scott because they did the Ram nights there. And we didn't hear anything for months. And then we got a call through my sister. They wanted a meeting. 3 days later, we'd hand in the Space Time. 5 days later, Andy C was playing it as his intro at some huge festival in Canada. And that continued for like, I think this was March, the rest of the summer. And by September, we had signed exclusively on a big deal to Ram. It really was dreams come true. And it was at that point that everything changed for us. And this kind of pipe dream started to become a reality. And here we are today. So really special moment. And in terms of the track, it was crazy because we take a long time fussing and procrastinating over our tracks, like I think a lot of D&B producers, just because of the nature of the genre. But this track came together so quickly. We had the idea in a matter of hours, and we had it done in 3 days. And still to this day, even 10 years later, with everything I know now, I still listen to it and I'm like, that sounds amazing. And, you know, I think back then tunes weren't quite as loud and limited. And I listen to it now, you know, the drums sound a bit smaller than the stuff we make now, and it's not as loud, but there is so much weight, there is so much sub. And it's still a mix down I'm really proud of. And I honestly, at that point, I didn't know what the I was doing. So don't know how we pulled it off, but yeah, it changed everything for us. I'm really proud of it. And I had to put it in. Right, number 2. This could have been number 1 for me because I love it so much, and this blew me away more than any track did around that time. I just remember I was at boarding school, very posh, famous English boarding school that I'm not going to mention. But I used to sneak out on a Friday night and go to Fabric and the End in London. And that experience, very naughty. I got caught and punished. But who cares? Because without that experience, maybe I wouldn't be here today. And it was one of those times, it was around that time when both my number 1 and 2 tracks were being dropped on dubplate and changing everything. And we used to listen to a lot of Renegade Hardware tunes at this point. And Renegade Hardware, the label and the events and that sound, that very, very hard, techie, it was almost the evolution of the Wormhole sound, but it was a lot harder and a lot more uncompromising. So we were quite into that at the time. And so we'd go to Renegade Hardware events, often sneaking out from school. And suddenly, in the middle of one night, I remember Loxy was playing, and Loxy is a wicked DJ, real, like old school, kind of heads down, like no emotion, none of this carrying on and having fun like we will do these days. Just heads down, mixing, almost like angrily, but it was in a cool way. And just like pure set of like dark Renegade Hardware rollers. Then out of nowhere, this like uplifting, euphoric, one big like uplifter of a tune suddenly comes in out of nowhere. It's of course the J Magic remix of a Hatiris Space Invader. And that juxtaposition between the dark, hard, stripped back, raw, industrial Renegade Hardware sound and this disco house drum and bass remix was so, such a big change in mood. It just took everyone by surprise. And from that point on, I was like, I must find out what this tune was. I was like one of those geeks fighting their way to the front of the booth, peering over to try and see what's scribbled on the dub plate. And all it was Heathman's mastering, legendary place where everyone got their tunes cut. Pure nostalgia here. And so yeah, I eventually found out after I think some thorough research online and on dogsonacid.com and the Drum and Bass Arena forums, found out what this was, and it's a J Magic remix of Hatiris, which was a very big disco. I think it might have been on Defected Records, not sure, but very big disco house track. And this was one instance where the whole just speeding up to 174 idea really worked for a house tune. And it was the first time that like filtered disco loop is quite a common thing now in certain D&B tracks, but it had never been done before. And the Hatiris tune has this like LFO'd build up, kind of wow build up that just seems to go on and lasting forever, and it just gives this real sense of euphoria. And that with the natural pace and energy of D&B was such an intoxicating combination. And it's been copied so many times, some very successfully, some not so successfully, but that I think it's been one of the most influential tracks in terms of kind of musical dance floor drum and bass. And I love playing it out. I love listening to it. It's happy and uplifting without being cheesy. It's just got so much energy. It was a real moment for the scene. And that's my number 2. Right, number one. What you've all been waiting for. This track. If it's not a lot of other drum and bass producers' number ones, I'll be very surprised. To say this track changed the game would be an understatement. I was there the time when, yes, Andy C was playing at Fabric, 4 till 5 set, Graveyard Shift. I think it was a True Players night. And he closed his set with this track. And it was a famous, thing. Everyone was talking on the internet forums on Monday. What the hell was that track? 5 rewinds. And to all you American viewers, a rewind is not a mistake. It's a spin back of the turntable, which in a British bass culture is something that's done when you drop a banger. And this was rewound 5 times. It is, of course, Bad Company, Planet Dust. My favourite, number 1 drum and bass tune of all time. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for listening.
I feel 1,000 eyes are watching.